Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be discussing with you the zone diet, which was established by Dr. Sears around 30 years ago. Dr. Sears had a family history of heart attacks, so he wanted to reduce the risk for himself and for future generations, potentially of his family and others, for getting heart attacks and suffering from the same ailments that his family did. So what does this diet actually involve? Well, it involves blood markers. There's three key tests. There's a triglyceride test, there's an arachidonic acid test, which is a fatty acid test, and a hemoglobin A1C test, which are three different blood tests this diet requires. It requires it before you do the diet and after to compare your values in the blood before and after, and they're good indicators of inflammation. Dr. Sears proposes that if this inflammation is higher, then it increases the risk of chronic diseases such as cancer and heart attacks, such as those that his family suffered. So what are the key benefits with this diet? Well, it's similar to the Mediterranean diet, and the Mediterranean diet is a diet which is proven to be healthy. It has a huge amount of scientific research to back it and support it for a longer life. And people following the diet around the globe, you'll see them with typically higher life expectancy than those who don't, depending on the other diets that they follow and how good they are, because certain other diets can be particularly good, such as the Japanese diet, for example, which I may well discuss in a future video. And another great thing about this diet is it doesn't actually ban anything. The last diet I discussed was the paleo diet, and that does ban certain things such as dairy. It also bans grains and anything really that is established before the introduction of agriculture, whereas this diet doesn't actually ban anything. It just restricts your carbs considerably and other nutrients, so it enables a little bit of those types of foods which it restricts. It just doesn't completely ban anything, which means compliance is more likely. It means people are more able to follow the diet. It is based on the principles of healthy eating, as I mentioned before. It does restrict carbs a little bit compared to the Eat Well plate, which is a good indication of what a healthy diet should be, although it doesn't heavily restrict them, and it does allow certain foods which are carbohydrates, such as starchy grains, which are particularly prevalent in the Mediterranean diet, for example. So it also considers your macronutrients and your micronutrients. It provides a plate which is 40, 30, 30, 40 of your carbs, 30 of your proteins, 30 of your fat as a proportion of your overall calorie intake. That is particularly good because it shows balance. It shows that all the macronutrients are considered, and it's not going to cut out any of your food groups that you need for functions such as growth and repair, energy storage, or energy storage, essentially, in different forms depending on whether carbohydrates or fats both can provide good sources of energy for the body, or the manufacture of cholesterol, for example. So what are the drawbacks with this diet? Well, it requires blood tests, as I mentioned earlier, so a blood test before and a blood test afterwards, which is a slightly invasive process. And if you don't go on the diet, obviously you don't need to have a blood test, so it's something that you might well put you off, particularly going on this diet, because you know that you need those markers assessed in the blood, which, to remind you, is the sort of more fatty acid type levels. Those sorts of things will be tested to see if they are increased, which is an indicator of inflammation. So this diet has supplements that are necessary to completely follow the diet, and these supplements are expensive, which brings us on to another drawback. Yes, it does allow things like cod liver oil supplements, which, although they have lower mercury than having consuming fish in its sort of meat form, they can still have potential minor side effects, and also they're not suitable for various groups, such as pregnant women can't consume those supplements, and also various other groups can't consume them, such as those with seafood allergies, for example. So there are various things that you need to consume alongside the diet, whereas to be fully healthy, I do not believe that you need supplements, because supplements are harder to digest, they're harder to absorb than food when it's in its natural form. So this diet, as I mentioned before, it omits starchy carbohydrates almost completely, and because of that, your body, if it's used to consuming carbs, which the majority of people are, it means that you're going to undergo some really unpleasant mood changes potentially and digestive issues while you're going through that several month ketogenic adaptation period, which everyone needs to go through to adjust for a normal kind of carb rich diet to one which doesn't have these types of carbs in. You will almost inevitably undergo these changes, which won't be positive for you, and you might well give up on the diet during that process because it's so unpleasant adjusting to the lack of carbs. It may also cause you stomach upsets and various digestive complaints, so that's another problem with this diet potentially. Also, the food block system it uses, although it doesn't necessitate it, you can, for example, like I say, go by the size of your palm for the amount of protein, so your meat size and meat thickness in terms of the size of your palm, and then you can go by sort of the proportions of the plate, so your 40 of the carbs, your 30 of your protein, which is the size of your palm, and then the 30 of fats, which you throw on like half an avocado or something. It's fairly easy to stick to, which will be predominantly the fat section will be predominantly monounsaturated fats, although that's not as precise because there's no way of knowing exactly whether that's correct. So the only way to be exact with this diet is by measuring the weight of the food you're actually eating, which is time consuming, it's laborious, and people probably aren't going to do it on the whole. So that's another issue with it. Like I say, it's expensive because of the supplements. Cod liver oil supplement typically around £6 for a large number of capsules, and like I say, they're not digested particularly well by the body unless you have them with other fatty food, which again, if you're having other fatty foods such as fish, then there's not much point in having a supplement with it that provides you with the same nutrients that does. So in conclusion, it is a healthy diet. It is based on a Mediterranean diet, which is known to be particularly good for long life. It's particularly restrictive though, and because it's restrictive, you're going to potentially have issues adjusting and adapting to this diet, so compliance potentially will be low. It doesn't ban anything, which is particularly good, and the supplements it requires are shown to be healthy for those who are deficient in the nutrients it provides, such as omega-3 supplements and polyphenols on this diet are recommended. But the omega-3 supplement isn't necessary if you're having at least 2 to 3 portions of fatty fish per week anyway. So on the whole, it's a pretty good diet. I'd recommend sort of the Eat Well plate as a general balanced diet or Mediterranean diet overall for even for weight loss or for athletes and people who need to continue their glycogen intake and who don't want to take supplements. Okay, so this has been Ben from Foods for Fitness, and please check out my Live Longer Diet for Long Life ebook. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and leave in any comments, any suggestions for future videos. Hope you've enjoyed this video.